played soccer all my life, through the school ranks, college ranks, professional ranks, as part of the 1984 Olympic team, and I've always had a passion for soccer. And for me, coaching was kind of a natural progression from playing, because I wanted to stay in the game desperately because it's my passion. And when you can't run around like you used to, the next best thing is to get into coaching, and it's a way to stay in the game and be involved with kids, and then hopefully pass on some of the knowledge that I've learned over the years to the kids around me. And there's no better feeling as a coach than to see improvement and things filter into young people's heads and them get better in any aspect of the game. So it's been really a joy and just kind of a natural progression for me. I'd say, the biggest influence has been Manny Shelshite, who is currently the U14 boys national team coach, because he was the guy who gave me my shot on the Olympic team. I was kind of a no-name player, and he invited me to a camp, and I ended up being his captain within a short time, and played under his auspices for quite a time. And I think he was a great role model for me. And then in turn, I was lucky enough to coach with him on the college ranks at Seton Hall University on the men's side for about 10 years, and so I got to work day in and day out with an ultimate professional and good person, and he's ultimately probably the biggest influence on myself. Well, I think, you need a picture of what you're hoping the kids are going to play like. Even before you step on a field, you want to have a picture of what you think the game should look like based on the quality of your kids. And then it's a matter of finding ways to work on things day in and day out so that those kids come closer to representing that picture. And it's also, I think it's important that coaches be able to adjust to their players, because you may have a certain precise picture, and maybe you don't have kids that can pull off that picture, but they have other excellent attributes. And I think as coaches we need to be flexible and adjust to the players and build systems around players and styles to some degree around the players that you have. All the while, still trying to find those kind of players that will fit into your initial picture. Well, I think it's an important part of anybody's education. If you want to become a high-level coach, I think it's important to go through the courses. And U.S. Soccer, their coaching programs have evolved and changed. I know because, when I did my B&A some years ago, from that point in time, which is probably 10 years ago to now, it's changed. I've read the materials that that have come into being in the last 5 years as the coaching schools changed, and they've moved, I think, in a progressive manner. And I think for every new coach or coach trying to go up the ranks, you have to go through those coaching licensing process, because it gives you a great overview and it throws out a whole load of issues in a short time. And at the end of the day, it just gives you some great general education. And then I think it's up to you to run with what you think is important, and to take out of those courses, the things that you felt were really beneficial based on your own coaching style, the way you're going to do it. And the great thing about soccer and coaching is that there's no right or wrong, and everybody's unique, and you go from country to country and team to team, and you've got a totally different outlook, and I think that's fine, and that's what makes this thing really exciting. At every age, every youth age group, development should be ultimately the top priority. That being said, I think it's important to teach kids how to win, how to compete, and that goes from the youngest of age groups. Even the real little ones who are 10 and 11. For instance, in training, exercises, they should still keep score in every little activity they're doing, because that goes a long way in terms of them understanding the difference between winning and losing, and how to prevail. That being said, at the youth level, across the board, the #1 priority should be development, and we as coaches, I think, have an obligation at the club level, the school level, the national team level, to do our utmost to prepare our kids for the future. And I can tell you, being in a World Cup at this moment, we've got a long way to go in our country. When you watch the likes of some of the other countries that are coming along at a fast pace and taking care of the technical issues and tactical issues at the young ages, you know, we need to be able to keep pace with that. And I think, you know, we need to do our homework when we go back home and really preach the issue of development back home and make that a top priority. But it's also very difficult because we have a unique system back home within the clubs, and it's become a big business. And winning and losing for a lot of coaches and trainers dictates whether they have a job for the following season and whether their kids stay with their team or move on to another team. So it's kind of we're kind of in a quandary in our country between doing the right thing and in many cases people trying to keep their jobs. And so I'm not sure that there's a precise black and white answer as to, you know, which way we go. Well, I think technique is vitally important. At the end of the day, one of the areas that our country needs to get better across the board is being able to put out 11 players who are really, really technically proficient, because that'll make the game so much easier. And at this moment, I don't know that we're in that boat where we can truly, you know, put out 11 at a time who are, you know, technically at the international level. And that's true. Most nations have the same issue. But watching some of the groups out there, you can tell that they've spent a lot of time on technique through the youth ages. So I think we need to get better at that. But I also do believe that, you know, technique and tactics go hand in hand, and they can be taught together. I mean, if you just by playing, for instance, a lot of small-sided games, you get tested on both issues, because technically you're always touching the ball and having to deal with the ball, and tactically you're constantly making decisions. And so just by playing a lot of small-sided games, I think that goes a long way for young people to get better in both avenues. And I think what we also need to do is I think create a love of the game within the kids, such to the degree that they are willing to do some homework. I don't think back home, you know, that technique is something that, you know, should be spent strictly between a coach and player. If at the end of the day, a coach has done a great job and that kid is really loving soccer, enjoying soccer every single day of the week, then they're likely to, on their free day, go out and strike the ball a load of times. Or if they're a forward, likely to go out and shoot on their free day in front of a net, and in turn become technically a great player. I think it's incumbent upon coaches to do what they can in training sessions back home to create a passion such that kids will do it on their own, rather than kids, as is the case in a lot of situations back home, where the only extra technical training they'll do is if they hire a personal trainer to spend an hour with them, and that's it. And they need to be spoon-fed all the time, and we got to get away from that, where the kids have the passion and then they do their homework, and the coaches can help them by saying, here, giving them some examples of some homework that they can do on. So I think to a large degree, technique is something that should be squared away on an individual basis versus within the team climate or, you know, session.